Hello and a warm welcome to episode 22 of my comprehensive ancient astrology course, in which I thoroughly explain to you, step by step, using concrete, very practical and incredibly simple examples, how it actually happens that the planets, in their unique ways, influence you as an individual and your life on a personal level. And even if you have never heard anything at all about astrology in your entire life, by the end of this video, you absolutely still will. You will gain an understanding of the astrological axes, as well as a clear grasp of the astrological houses and their significance. One of a total of 4 important astrological axes is also commonly referred to as the Ascendant, and it is precisely the specific point where your own individual unique horoscope truly begins. This is your personal, individual energetic map, which serves as a unique blueprint for your astrological identity. It is, so to speak, the point that determines the beginning of everything. Yes, but what actually is the Ascendant? What does it really mean, and quite specifically? And how does it actually come about? That's exactly what we're going to take a closer look at now using an example image. So we have a young lady sitting here now. This young lady is 35 years old. It's her birthday today, and she has decided to return to her place of birth on her birthday so that she can better understand how the Ascendant actually works. So yes, she said she's going back there now. Yes, there's a hospital behind her. You can't see it in the picture, but that's where she was born. Exactly. 35 years ago, in the morning, right at sunrise. And it was exactly 7:36 in the morning. And if we look at the picture now, we can see the sun rising in the background. Right there where I'm moving the mouse around now. And here we have the horizon, specifically her local horizon, and it is exactly at this particular point right here, where the sun is rising, and this intersection with the horizon, practically right here where I'm circling with the mouse, that is the point which is called the Ascendant. That's what it's called. And it's also a synonym for the easternmost point. This point is the easternmost point at the birth of this young lady. And everything begins exactly at this point. Now we have our Ascendant. That's the beginning. For the entire calculation of how the planets influence us in our lives, let's take a closer and more detailed look at this in the next image. Here, as you can see, we have a single white dot right in the middle. And this white dot now represents our young lady. She's still sitting there now. And yes, so you know roughly where she's sitting. It's now marked with a white dot. And this green dot, which I'm currently circling with the mouse pointer, that's now the specific horizon intersection point that she's looking at right now. Basically, here's the Earth and here's the line. Here, this marks the exact horizon intersection point, so you know exactly where it is located. And here is the point where it intersects. Not means here is the Ascendant, which is another word for the easternmost point. So also for the east, and just simply put, AC. That's what it's called. So in future, we'll also refer to it here as the Ascendant, or simply as AC. Now let's zoom in a bit closer. And here, we also have what is known as the South. The South is actually the highest point that the sun can possibly reach in the sky on the day of your birth. It's also called the zenith point or the mid-heaven. And mathematically speaking, when the sun reaches its very highest point in the sky on your birthday, this specific calculation, this particular point in time, can actually be determined, and that's exactly what is referred to as the MC, or medium Coeli. So you can remember here that medium Coeli is essentially a synonym for south, and it is commonly abbreviated as MC, which stands for medium Coeli. That means we also use the name medium Coeli, or MC, for this southernmost point, for this zenith point. Yes, and of course, if there is an east and a south, meaning an easternmost point and a southernmost point, then naturally there is also a westernmost point. And that is exactly opposite the east. And that's the one I'm currently circling with the mouse right now, which is the direction known as the west. And in astrology, this particular point is called the Descendant, or DC for short, which is the abbreviation used. And it stands for the west. And then down here we have what is considered the lowest point, as well as the northernmost point, which is also carefully calculated based on this very first point. In this way, you also have the ability to know exactly what the northernmost point was on the specific day this woman was born. And in astrology, this is called the Imum Coeli, or simply abbreviated as IC. So quite simply, AC, MC, DC and IC are nothing more than the 4 cardinal directions. AC is the east, where the sun rises. MC is the south, where the sun is at its highest point in the sky. DC is the north, which represents sunset. And IC is the lowest point, the night. It is no longer visible at this point, and your individual unique birth chart is in essence nothing more than a detailed calculation of where the planets and cardinal points were positioned in the sky at the exact moment of your birth. This also means that the ascendant is location dependent, because every place on Earth has its own specific east and its own unique horizon. And it can also be helpful to understand or to know that there are actually 2 different types of east being referred to here in this context. In the end, both are kissed. That means, on the one hand, we have the global east, which is the same everywhere on Earth. You can also see it on a compass. Everyone has the same north, the same south, the same west, and the same north, whereas there is also a celestial east. And that is exactly the one used in astrology. It is the point in the sky where, for this location, the sun rises. And it depends on exactly where you are on the globe. Yes, and that's exactly why it's helpful to know, because to be honest, it confused me for a long time. I just didn't understand how that could actually be. It always sounded so contradictory, and somehow didn't make any sense. And when I then found out that there are actually 2 different easts here, well, then it all started to make sense again. And these 4 astrological axes, that is, the Ascendant, the Medium Coeli, the Descendant, and the Imum Coeli. They also mean something, of course, and that's what we're going to look at now. What exactly that means. Let's start with the Ascendant. This is the easternmost point. And just as we've already seen, something is rising. It's the beginning. It's the birth of something. You, your body, so to speak, enter into earthly existence. It's the place of appearance. Something becomes visible. That's why body, presence, I am here. Or also an emergence. The Ascendant is also often interpreted in terms of character because it is the interface between the inner self and the world, and the outer world. Everything that becomes visible there is automatically perceived as personality, because whoever becomes visible displays behaviour that others notice. The ancient scholars said about this, here life reveals itself in appearance. Then we look to the south, the Medium Coeli, the MC. And here it's specifically about the point that is maximally visible to everyone, the one that stands at the very highest position possible. It is in fact the highest point, and that's exactly why it can also be interpreted as something public, open or accessible to all. One is seen by everyone. It is reputation, one's work, but also responsibility. And since the MC, or midheaven, concerns the highest and most prominent point of appearance in the sky, Everything that becomes visible there stands out especially, drawing particular attention, and is often interpreted as a significant life goal or even a calling. Ancient astrologers also regarded the MC as the place of maximum exposure, where one's actions and achievements are most visible to the world. Then we look to the west, the Descendant. And here you can already see quite clearly it is all about the other, the counterpart, the opposition. It is the place of the counterpart, but also of partners, contracts, or even enemies, the radically other, the one who stands in contrast to oneself. The DC is often closely related to personal relationships or social encounters. This is because it symbolically marks the other side, representing the point of interaction with others. Everything that is mirrored or handed over there on that side shapes the interaction between individuals. In fact, ancient astrologers simply referred to the DC as the place of the not I, emphasizing its role as the counterpart to the self. And now we have the IC, the Imum, Coeli. This is the north, the lowest point in the sky, so to speak, the lowest heaven. And it is something upon which all that is visible truly rests and depends. It is beneath the earth, invisible, or also the foundation. Origin, ancestors, the human psyche, and profound existential depth, all of these can be associated with the lower sky. It is also coldness, darkness, constancy. The IC affects our inner stability and our sense of being deeply rooted because it symbolises the invisible and essential foundation of life itself. Everything that lies there forms the fundamental support for our existence. And from an ancient perspective, the IC above all carries the fundamental basis of life. So, to summarise, one could now say, in a single concise sentence, the four primary astrological axes: the Ascendant, meaning I appear, the Midheaven, meaning I act, the Descendant, meaning I encounter, and the IC, meaning I establish. And all of this happens simultaneously throughout one's life. And these meanings of the astrological axes, this quick overview, so to speak, those who are already subscribed to the newsletter already have them anyway. They receive them automatically, just as all course materials are automatically provided for everyone who is already participating, has signed up, or has ordered the Astro set. They are always automatically supplied with the latest course materials. By email, meaning they receive an email. And of course, they have already received this quick overview, whereas if you are perhaps new here, you will find a link below in the description. There you'll be taken to my homepage, and yes, you can also easily download the course materials there at any time. Or, of course, anyone who is already taking part in the course and maybe can't find the email anymore, or has lost the sheets, or perhaps even misplaced them, they can always find and access the course materials on the homepage as well. There, you can then download the materials, the sheets, or the information again if something is missing or if you need anything. And the others, which you have to purchase, like the Astro set, you'll always find those in your respective account. When you place an order, you can optionally create an account for your convenience, and all purchased materials and products are always available and accessible there. So you can always download them again, for example, the Astro detector. And of course, all course materials are also available in English for viewers who speak other languages. You'll always find all of the relevant links, web URLs and important addresses conveniently listed down below in the description section. Or of course, if you're already registered and have an account, you'll receive this information anyway. It's always sent to you automatically in your language, in English. But now let's continue with the explanation of how all these influences, the planetary influences and the cardinal directions, actually affect us. How does that actually work in concrete terms? How does it come about? And what exactly is it that is acting upon us here? Right, so let's take another look at this picture here. And there you can already see the divisions of the circle here, because we have the Earth in the centre, and you could simply say that this is the atmosphere, or indeed the sky, that surrounds the Earth, since we are exactly surrounded here by the sky and by the atmosphere. And these segments, they are actually 12 equal parts here, which I'm tracing with the mouse right now for you to see clearly. These are our zodiac signs, our 12 cardinal directions. And here's another image, so it's even easier to understand. Here we now have the heliocentric view with the sun in the centre. And I want to emphasise again that we always switch back and forth between these perspectives, depending on what we need at the time, because it simply helps with understanding. After all, the mathematical calculations are always the same anyway. That means whether the Earth is in the centre or the Sun, the mathematical calculations remain exactly the same. So it makes no difference to our calculations. It simply helps us to understand things better when we switch perspectives as needed. And that also means that things don't always have to be geometrically exact. For example, the Earth might sometimes look bigger than the Sun. That, of course, happens when we choose the view with the Earth at the centre. Then it looks like that in the picture, but mathematically it is always exact, just as it is in all perspectives. So, mathematically correct. Right, so now we have the heliocentric view. And now we're looking at the Earth here. I'm just circling around it with the mouse. And now let's imagine our 35-year-old woman who is celebrating her birthday today and is sitting out on the meadow right now. She's sitting here on the Earth at this very moment, just from a different perspective. You're now seeing it from space. We're in a spaceship now, and we're looking at everything from the outside. And right, here we have our 12 directions of the sky, our zodiac. We already know it from previous videos. And each of these 12 30-degree sections has its own distinctive energy quality or characteristic, making each section unique. And our young lady, who is joyfully celebrating her birthday today, has her birthday in the wonderful month of October. So her sun sign is Libra, which is also known as the sign of balance and harmony, because the Earth is currently positioned in the Libra section of the zodiac, since it is, in fact, October. And in October, the Earth is always in this section, whereas a month later it would be in Scorpio. Yes, but right now the Earth is in Libra. And if we want to take a much closer look at the situation, we can always go back about 35 years to the time when the woman was originally born. And here we can see it very clearly. The woman was born 35 years ago in October, early in the morning, on Earth. And that's exactly how it looked from the geocentric perspective. And because the Earth was positioned in the section of Libra at the specific time of her birth, this particular zone reflected the distinctive qualities and characteristics of Libra onto the Earth. And that's exactly why she receives the energy quality of Libra here. And from the geocentric perspective, with the Earth in the centre as we have it here, it looks as if the Sun is orbiting the Earth. As I said, that's just the point of view, because it's simply easier for us to understand it that way. Of course, the Earth orbits the Sun, as shown earlier in another image. That would now be from the heliocentric perspective, with the Sun in the centre. But that doesn't help us here. We live on Earth, so as human beings, we have to include this perspective as well. Otherwise, we can't really fully understand things in the right way, because we are on Earth and view everything from here. Mathematically, of course, everything is exactly the same, only the perspective changes. Exactly. And if we look just a little further now, we remember our image here, our 4 astrological axes, with the Earth right in the centre. And here you can see very clearly and distinctly how these 12 zodiac signs, these 12 unique energy qualities, each have an effect on the Earth, the woman is sitting quietly on the earth in the month of October. Here, that's the white dot. And the earth is positioned in the direction of Libra, which is green. That's why, at the exact moment of her birth, the woman is influenced by this green energy quality. And now, back again to real life, that is on Earth, on the meadow. Exactly. And here you can see again that in October, early in the morning, the woman is sitting on the meadow on her birthday. The sun rises, the easternmost point is this intersection with the horizon here, which means her ascendant is Libra. In this case, just like her sun sign, because she was born in October. That means the sun is here in the sign of Libra. And since she was born in the morning, at sunrise, her ascendant is also Libra. And of course, that doesn't always have to be the case, because the sun could just as well be in the south for someone born at midday. But the ascendant would still be the easternmost point. So if the sun wasn't visible here, but above her, because she was born at midday, it would still remain the ascendant. Only in this case, yes, it is the ascendant. Libra, green, plus sun sign Libra, green. And next to it, we see the other zodiac qualities. Here, for example, Virgo also has an influence alongside Libra. That means that here, if, for example, in this particular direction, because after all, it is a cardinal direction as well, if, let's say, both Saturn and Jupiter were currently positioned right here, then this woman would also be located here at this spot. She would receive virginal energy qualities thanks to the influences of Jupiter and Saturn, which both transmit these energies further, but in a Jupiterian and Saturnian quality, not in a solar quality. Yes, we've already covered this in all the planet sign videos, explaining in detail how these influences work. But this way you can really picture it nicely in your mind, how it actually happens in practice. And here, right next to Libra, we have the direction of Scorpio, shown in red here at the edge. And if other planets, such as Mars or Neptune, were positioned right here in this specific location, then they would, in turn, transmit the characteristic scorpionic energy qualities. Yes, and that's exactly how it works, that the planets and the directions in the sky influence us. By the way, these illustrations here, like this one for example, but also this one, are all part of the book, the first volume, 1001 Miles Wants to Become a Buddha. Journey to the Moon and to Venus. And in it, the concept is explained again and explored in more detail. How exactly these influences come about. It's child's play, super easy to understand, and also illustrated with practical examples. For example, 1001 Miles dines with the Venus goddess, or rather, they eat together in her castle, in her palace. There's a celebration taking place there, in honour of Libra and Taurus. And that's exactly where you'll find the special Libra and Taurus dishes, which of course are also influenced on Earth. So food or plants, as well as fruit and vegetables, are naturally all influenced by the 12 directions of the heavens, from our zodiac. Yes, and in this way, such concepts are conveyed to children in a really simple and playful manner, making it very suitable for kids. You can now clearly see in the testimonials that it goes down very well with children. Of course, depending on their age, children sometimes need parental support, or you might just leave out certain concepts at first. This is also well separated, these concepts with the pictures. And then it just carries on again. The story, the adventure, continues. If you say that something's still a bit too complicated, you can simply leave it out for now and carry on with the adventures and stories. But it is definitely highly recommended, so you're really doing your children or grandchildren a favour. Here, in any case, you're giving them something good, because you're passing on something for their journey in life, something they'll be able to use in the future and remember. Exactly, and of course you'll also find the book down below in the description. And it's also part of the Astro set. So we've now thoroughly discussed what the astrological axes are, as well as how and why they can significantly affect us in our daily lives. Yes, and now we still have the houses, the astrological houses. And ultimately, the houses simply determine which particular phase of life is affected for each of us in our lives. So to speak, the earthly matters. And how that comes about, we'll take another quick look at now. In more detail, it should also be mentioned here, for the sake of clarity, that a different system was actually used in ancient astrology and not the same one that is used today. This distinction is important because in the past, ancient astrologers used space as a reference point, not time as is done in modern astrology. In essence, this means nothing other than that the sky, our 12 directions, the zodiac, was faithfully and precisely mirrored, one-to-one, onto the earth, onto the earthly being, so to speak. The houses are, or were, the mirror of the heavens in ancient astrology. I'll just quickly show that now using this horoscope. Here, the ancient whole sign house method applies, as you can see, because here the person has the ascendant, the AC, in the sign of Gemini. And here exactly the same thing happened. When this person was born, the easternmost point at the exact moment of their birth was in the direction of the sign of Gemini, just as before. And here, the ascendant is now the 30th degree section of Gemini, in fact the entire Gemini sign, because it is a projection of the sky. Here is the zodiac itself, the scale of space. Because when the ascendant falls on a certain zodiac sign, on a certain section of the sky, then the entire section of the sky becomes the first house. That means wherever the ascendant is located in the chart, that automatically becomes what is known as the first house, and indeed it refers to the entire 30-degree section of the zodiac. And so it continues logically from there. The second house here would be the whole of Cancer, and the third house here, the whole of Leo. And so it continues logically here as well. It is practically an exact copy of the zodiac sign. There are likewise 12 equally sized sections, each measuring 30 degrees. And here, the ascendant does not determine the size, but only the starting point, because the size always remains the same, just like the size of the zodiac sign. Just like with the zodiac signs. It's also very easy to imagine it as the sky being taken as an evenly divided circle, divided into 12, and then reflected or projected onto the living environment of people, onto what interests and influences people in their everyday lives, in their daily routines. This also varies depending on the house. One house can stand for creativity, another for family, yet another for material values or for spirituality, death, inheritance, friendships, partnerships, or romantic relationships. In other words, each house also has its own unique meaning. Earthly matters, in other words. With the ancient house system, the space is not distorted or warped as it is with the modern one. Instead, the person is carefully and thoughtfully placed into the already ordered and structured sky. For all those interested viewers and listeners who want to know exactly and precisely where the difference truly lies, let's now take a quick and brief look at the modern house system as well, so we can compare and understand both approaches more clearly. But we won't be using those here in the ancient astrology course. From now on, we'll be using the ancient method here. I emphasise from now on because, to begin with, we're not even using houses yet. Of course, those with more experience can use the houses if they need them. But when we observe the moon every day, how it affects our feelings, how it influences us in daily life, it's the moment itself that already tells us what we need to know. That means at the beginning, with daily observations, it's actually too much and rather confusing. Yes, of course, we'll include them later, but we'll see when it fits and when it really makes sense. Right, but now let's take another quick look at the modern method, which is calculated according to time. This means that space is no longer taken into account here. It's all based on time. So how does that work, Mao? Yes, here we can see the modern house method, and one thing stands out straight away. We can clearly see the first house, which extends here all the way from the 3rd degree in Gemini to the 28th degree in Gemini. I hope that I am seeing this correctly now. 27th, 28th degree in Gemini. The second house is much smaller. The third house is a bit bigger. The fourth house is a bit bigger again. But the 11th house up here, on the other hand, is much, much larger. So you can see each house is a different size. Why? Well, the reason is that in the modern method, what you do is you take the specific point of the ascendant, actually to be more precise, the exact degree of the ascendant, and then you see how long it takes for that degree to reach the MC, or the midheaven. And here, for example, this could now be 6 hours, because one full circle is a day. So from AC to AC is 1 day. That means from AC to MC is now roughly 6 hours. So let's just take 6 hours as an example here, that for the person who is born at this specific location, it would now be a total of 6 hours from the ascendant, or AC, to the midheaven, or MC. And now these 6 hours are divided equally by 3 houses, namely the 10th house, the 11th house, and the 12th house. And that means you get approximately 2 hours per house for each of these 3 houses. But what happens now? Now, the hours are converted into degrees, and this no longer results in equally sized sections. Now, the sections end up being different sizes. Yes, and so it's no longer spatial, as it was in the ancient method, but rather you get unevenly sized houses, because it's been calculated according to time. And from this calculation, the rest is then derived as well. Here, it's simply mirrored over and then calculated further, and here again mirrored to the other side. Yes, and of course there are some who use these house systems and others who use the other house systems. Here we use the ancient house system, also because the modern house system mathematically breaks down in polar regions. That means, for example, if someone happens to be born in Norway, Alaska or Canada, so in certain specific zones, places or cities, yes, they simply do not have a sunrise or a sunset at all. And so as a result, they also do not have a horoscope, and there are no houses either. So it can't be calculated there, for example, with the modern Placidus method. And yes, that's simply not an issue with the ancient method. That's not the case, because you simply take the space and it always fits. So there's no such thing as certain places not being included here. Yes, and that's why we use the ancient system, because it works for everyone and because it's also a reflection of the sky. Yes, and the calculations work out flawlessly and fit perfectly into all other areas of astrology, of ancient astrology. That is, the entire geometric and mathematical system. Yes, so now we've basically covered all the fundamental or the truly important aspects of astrology in this preparatory introductory phase. This means that we've laid a solid foundation, ensuring that everyone has a clear understanding of the essential principles and core concepts that underpin the study of astrology. In the next video, there will be a quick overview, a sort of summary of the last 22 or 23 videos, which will serve as a helpful recap. This summary is designed so that anyone who's just joining the series at this point can quickly get their bearings, catch up on what has been discussed so far, and find an overall view of the material. At the same time, those who've already been taking part in the course from the beginning will be able to quickly find information again, refresh their memory, and reinforce their understanding of the key points. To make this process even easier and more accessible, I'll include a detailed table of contents, which will help everyone navigate the material efficiently and locate specific topics or sections they are interested in revisiting. If you ever want to look something up again, you won't have to watch each video individually, but instead you can find the information you need much more quickly and efficiently this way. Or even addresses. For example, if you need a specific link to create the horoscope again, you can easily locate it. Yes, exactly. Just to wrap up this preparation phase, this initial introductory phase, nicely and neatly, making sure everything is in order before phase 1 officially starts in the video after next. There are also a few important updates to mention here. I'll definitely announce those updates and share all the details via the newsletter. Exactly. And with that, I'd say see you in the next episode. Take care. See you then. Bye. Bye.